Hail, Dicelings, and ready your personality and behavior. I mean, honestly, it's getting hard to come up with intros for this one. So let's get ready to enter 20 questions part 5 here, which is obviously your personality and your behavior. With this one, it's pretty straightforward. Again, this is kind of discovering who your character is. This is where the meat and potatoes of your character creation is actually going to come up. So the big pointers I have for you here is take your time on it. Honestly, this is where you're going to find out what kind of character you're playing, what you want to kind of bring in. And if I were you and you were feeling like maybe your choices weren't the best when you started playing, or you have a better idea of who the character is once you've started playing, this would be a good area to talk to your GM and say, hey, can I change some things inside here? Because this is mostly fluffy stuff that kind of determines who your character is in the world. So number 14 is, what do people notice about your character upon first entering? And I could have simply chosen his size, which would be a little cop-out. But I did find a website with 500 character quirks, which I'll include in the doobly-doo. Which on there, one of the ones that I saw was I snort when I laugh, which would be very embarrassing in Rokugan, so I went ahead and took that. And then I put a little note here for my GM because I want to use the right word, but maybe my GM doesn't know what it is. But Haori is a jacket that's meant to be worn open. There's usually an intricate design on the back of it. So he has a floral Haori, so open jacket, that he typically wears. That gives me a little nod to his interest in Ikebana, and it again kind of hints at the fact that while he's a big strong guy, he's a little bit of softer on the edges. And then how does your character react to stressful situations? I become hyper-vigilant about the safety or the surrounding environment. Growing up in Crablands, I imagine there's several crab that kind of fall into this category, so that was kind of one that I picked that probably would work best. The best thing that I could do is if you check inside the doobly-doo underneath the quirks, I included a website that includes common stress reactions. I use both of these sites to help me out when I create characters in L5R for the new version, simply because these are questions that weren't ever really asked of me before, so it gives me a chance to kind of look through there and see what seems interesting for me to play. I'd recommend you taking a look at the lists if you're ever stumped or you don't know exactly where you want to go. They could definitely help that out. And then number 15 also will kind of help flavor how you do an unmasking. So the thing that I would say is when you fill out 15 is think about how your character is going to unmask. Will this be something that could play up in a way that is a chance to gain dishonor and a chance to gain something more? Because remember, when you unmask, chances are you're going to lose a little honor or glory depending on how you unmask and what the situation is, but you should gain something out of it. So this one is actually kind of cool because if I become hyper-vigilant, I can make courtiers really nervous, but I may discover that there's a shinobi inside the court, and now I can deal with that problem before it becomes a huge deal and an assassination. So that would be kind of a cool use of me unmasking by the GM. Number 16, this is where you get to compile the NPCs that you have in mind. This is basically the golden area for GMs. I recommend every GM to make sure that they pay close attention to number 16 because these are the things that are important to your character. It lets you know what the character's relationships are, and what I did is I put in how those relationships view me, and then I plan to RP how I see my own relationship with those characters and those factions and families through the story and through the events of the story. My character being a mostly local kid who has joined the Imperial Legion, he doesn't have a whole lot outside of the Crab family. He's got his grandfather, who he's close with, the Haruma family, who's indifferent to him, but he is respectful to them. Yasuki Oda, who's a merchant samurai, who's friendly to him, has brought him books on Ikebana flowers from other regions of Rokugan. And then his new daimyo, or his gunso, I should say, Gunso Akado Junji, who is indifferent to him as well, since he is the new captain that he's reporting to. And then Hida Kasada, basically there's trust between the two. He gave him the Kubi Bukuro, there we go, for Hida Kasada's cousin, with the promise to help bring down Daidoji Shigo or Shigo no Oni once this task is complete. If you remember right, my desire is to take down the Oni. So This is a way for my character to kind of come back to that desire. Since I didn't take any disadvantages that really reflect that, this was a good way for me to bring it back in. Disadvantages or advantages based upon your desires are also a really good, easy thing to kind of pick up and add on. So that is it for this section. The next section is about ancestry and family. This is about who your family line was, how they shaped your life, and these next videos are going to go pretty quick because once that's done, the last thing to talk about is your character's idea of how they're going to die. This is kind of a goldmine area again for the GMs, so make sure you catch the next videos. I'll talk a little bit about how the GM can use some of this stuff and what they actually should mean to your character and how you can implement them. But for everybody who's been tuning in and kind of going along for the ride, by the time we're done, we should have a functioning crab Bushi, which I'll actually put in the doobly-doo for the last video, a copy of the character sheet. So if you want to use this character, you can absolutely just take it, run with it, and give it to your GM, both the 20 questions and a filled out character sheet. So think of it like a free pre-gen for you, and each character that we put together on the channel, we're going to include it on the last video for that series. With that said, guys, if you are new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you hit the likes button, subscribe, do the bell for the notifications, all that jazz. And as always, I'll see you at the gaming table.